The evening air in a Montana cabin is crisp, carrying the faint scent of pine and snow. Inside, the cabin is warm and brightly lit, decorated for Victor's retirement celebration. Victor Hayes, a composed, dependable man of 58, stands at the center of the room, glass in hand, his voice steady yet tinged with motion. He recounts 36 years of marriage with Margaret, highlighting the moments of joy, sacrifice, and companionship they've shared. Laughter erupts from their children, Evan and Lily, and their partners, mingling with soft music in the background. Guests cheer as Victor raises his glass, eyes glinting with pride and nostalgia. Yet amidst the happiness, Margaret, 56, sits slightly apart, her fingers trembling around a wine glass. She smiles faintly at Victor but avoids eye contact, her mind elsewhere. The heavy drinking is a shield, hiding the tension and guilt that gnaws at her, unnoticed in the warmth and chaos of celebration as the night wanes. Guests trickle off to their rooms, leaving an uneasy quiet in the cabin. Margaret hesitates before following Victor outside to the porch, her heart pounding with fear and anticipation. The night sky is clear, stars glimmering over the dark silhouette of the mountains, the chill biting through her light sweater. She grips the railing, her hands shaking, voice low and trembling. Every word she's about to speak feels like a weight pressing against her chest. The confession she's held for decades threatens to shatter the life they've built. Victor's quiet presence is comforting yet unknowable. He doesn't speak, giving her the space to reveal her secret. When she whispers that Evan is not his biological son, the words hang in the cold air, heavier than the snow-laden trees around them. Margaret watches Victor, hoping for understanding but fearing devastation. Her mind racing through decades of guilt and fear of irreparable damage. Victor stands in stunned silence, the world narrow into Margaret's trembling lips and the words he cannot unhear. His chest tightens, heart racing, breath caught in his throat as disbelief and betrayal crash over him like a relentless tide. The memory of Evan as a baby, as a boy running through their yard, as a young man laughing with his sister. Every cherished moment is suddenly clouded by doubt and uncertainty. Margaret's eyes glisten with tears, desperate for him to understand the love behind her decades of secrecy. Yet Victor cannot process her intentions. The warmth of the night, the celebration, and the laughter from earlier feel distant, irrelevant, as he wrestles with the unimaginable truth. He cannot speak. He cannot move. The cold Montana wind whispers through the trees, echoing the emptiness swelling inside him, leaving him numb, hollow, and on the precipice of a life irrevocably changed. Victor's youth was defined by relentless work and unyielding dedication. In his 20s, he juggled double shifts at a factory, his hands calloused and shoulders heavy, saving every penny to create a secure future for Margaret. Nights were spent poring over bills, figuring out how to stretch each paycheck, and imagining the home he could build with her. Dreams of a bigger career, perhaps in engineering or design, were quietly abandoned, his aspirations deferred for stability, for love. Margaret, bright-eyed and encouraging, often reminded him of their shared future, promising that their sacrifices today would blossom into a life of comfort and family warmth tomorrow. Victor's love was unconditional, his trust absolute, and he never questioned her words. Each act of labor, each long hour, was a brick in the foundation of their shared life. His devotion was unwavering, unshakable, and deeply intertwined with his sense of purpose and identity. Fast forward to present, Victor's sacrifices have materialized into a life of respect and stability. He owns a successful mechanic shop, known in town for his honesty, skill, and dedication to his employees and customers. Margaret, by contrast, works as a school accountant, diligent and precise, balancing ledgers and budgets with care. Together, they have cultivated the image of the perfect couple, dependable, loving, and devoted. Their children, Evan and Lily, see Victor as a pillar of strength, a man who endured hardship, made the right choices, and always put family above self-interest. Friends admire them for their long-lasting marriage, while neighbors quietly envy the harmony they seem to embody. Yet beneath the polished surface, subtle fissures remain unnoticed. Victor's life has always been defined by loyalty, by putting others first, by constructing a home and family as his ultimate achievement. With his personal dreams sacrificed quietly along the way, the audience now understands profound stakes at play. Victor's entire identity is intertwined with his family, a lifetime devoted to love, loyalty, and sacrifice. Every choice, every compromise, every hardship endured for Margaret and their children has built a delicate architecture of trust and devotion. Now, the revelation of betrayal threatens to dismantle everything he has constructed over 36 years. The love he believed in, the sacrifices he made, the life they carefully built together. All seem fragile, vulnerable to one hidden secret. Margaret's guilt and confession not only shatter the image of the perfect couple, but challenge the very core of Victor's being. What he thought was a lifetime of loyalty, built on truth and devotion, is now entangled with deception. The audience feels the weight of 36 years of unwavering love and sacrifice, teetering on the brink of ruin, and the emotional gravity of what is at stake becomes undeniable. After revealing the decades-old secret, Margaret pleads with Victor on the quiet Montana porch, her voice fragile and desperate. She implores him to keep confession to himself, insisting that revealing the truth would irreparably damage their children and the life they've built together. "If the kids find out, it will destroy our family," she whispers, her hands trembling as they cling to his. She emphasizes that Victor has always been Evan's father in every meaningful sense, that his love, guidance, and presence have shaped the boy into the man he is today. Victor listens silently, trying to process the confession, feeling the weight of decades of loyalty and love. He wants to believe her, to protect the family they've sacrificed for, yet the seed of doubt and unease begins to take root. Every word from Margaret now feels like a delicate balance between forgiveness and devastation. The fragile tension shatters when Margaret admits she continues to speak with the pastor, who has recently become widowed. Her tone attempts to frame it as innocent grief support, a monthly meeting to discuss loss and comfort. But Victor's mind races. The decades-old betrayal is now tangled with a present, ongoing deception. His trust collapses into raw rage and confusion. Unable to contain his need for proof, Victor secretly checks Margaret's phone, navigating deleted messages and hidden files. The evidence he uncovers is damning. Romantic messages erased, hotel bookings under their own names, and photos from the cabin where they had honeymooned. Every memory he cherished becomes a knife twisting in his chest. The betrayal is no longer confined to the past. It is alive, unfolding in real time. Victor's heart pounds, chest tight with fury, betrayal, and grief, as the illusion of a perfect marriage collapses around him. Unable to contain himself, Victor confronts Margaret. The moment is explosive. Her panic is immediate, her denial frantic, shaking with fear. Yet the evidence on his phone is undeniable, and under the weight of his unwavering gaze, she collapses into confession, tears streaming down her face. The air is thick with tension, unspoken accusations, and shattered trust. What had begun as a plea to preserve the family now ignites a storm, marking the turning point of their lives. Victor's sense of identity, built on sacrifice and loyalty, feels irreversibly fractured. The past and present collide, creating a chasm between them that cannot easily be bridged. This confrontation propels the narrative forward. Every decision from this point on carries the weight of betrayal, loyalty, and consequences that will shape the trajectory of their family forever. The calm Montana night now feels suffocating, oppressive, and ominous. The days following Margaret's revelation become a nightmare for Victor. Sleep eludes him, meals sit untouched, and work at the mechanic shop feels meaningless. He drifts through his home like a ghost, moving from room to room without purpose, his mind replaying every detail of Margaret's confession and the betrayal's recent uncovering. Evan notices a change in his father. The quiet, hollow gaze, the withdrawn behavior, the avoidance of conversation. Yet Victor cannot summon the words to explain the storm raging inside him. Margaret, sensing his vulnerability, attempts to manipulate him, her voice deceptively calm. "You're overreacting," she says, trying to frame his anguish as irrational. "It was never love, just confusion," she whispers, attempting to rewrite history and absolve herself. Victor's heart aches at her audacity. His trust shattered further as he realizes the depth of deception surrounding not only the past but the present, making him feel increasingly alone and unmoored. Victor's isolation intensifies. He begins avoiding family dinners, retreats to sleep in his truck outside the house, and meticulously distances himself from interactions that might force him to confront the betrayal. At the same time, he investigates the pastor, following threads of secrecy and half-truths. He discovers that the pastor had known, all along, that Evan might not be his biological son, yet stayed silent, choosing secrecy over honesty. Further, Victor learns that the pastor has been quietly donating money to their household for decades, a shadowy attempt at influence and control. Each revelation compounds Victor's anger and sense of betrayal. The duplicity is no longer singular. He feels played by both Margaret and the pastor. Every memory of family, of loyalty, of faith in the people closest to him, now feels tainted. The man who once devoted his life entirely to love and trust is engulfed in doubt and emotional turbulence, questioning everything he once held sacred. Margaret refuses to seek therapy or address the fissures in their marriage, insisting that her version of reality is enough. Victor, left to navigate the chaos alone, resolves that he can no longer maintain silence. The weight of decades of lies, coupled with the ongoing deception, has created an unbearable tension. He begins preparing himself to reveal the truth to Evan and Lily, recognizing that their lives, as carefully constructed as they were, must now confront the painful reality. The man who defined himself entirely through loyalty and family faces the ultimate test, exposing betrayal, risking the destruction of what he's worked for, and redefining his identity in the process. Every step he takes is deliberate, yet heavy with emotional gravity, each moment fraught with anticipation, fear, and righteous anger. The once stable world of the Hayes family teeters on the edge of irreversible upheaval. The night is tense, heavy with unspoken truths and lingering fear. Victor calls the family together in the dimly lit living room, the air thick with anticipation. Lily senses immediately that something is gravely wrong. Her eyes flick between her parents, anxiety coiling in her chest. Evan, protective and wary, assumes his father might be unwell, perhaps under stress or illness. Victor stands rigid, heart pounding, knowing that what he is about to reveal will shatter decades of perceived stability. Before he can speak, Margaret interrupts, panic written across her face, her voice trembling as she pleads for him to stop. But Victor, steeled by a month of betrayal, pushes through. He speaks with a mixture of controlled fury and heartbreak, revealing the affair, the pastor's involvement, and the long-held secret of Evan's paternity. The revelation lands like a bomb in a room, the fragile illusion of their perfect family dissolving instantly, leaving shock and raw emotion in its wake. The emotional fallout is immediate and violent. Evan collapses into a torrent of anguish, screaming and sobbing as the truth crashes into every cherished memory. He punches the wall, knuckles bleeding, his grief and betrayal manifesting physically as well as emotionally. Lily, witnessing her father's agony and her mother's panic, turns sharply against Margaret, her voice trembling as she confronts the deception that has haunted her family. Margaret, cornered and desperate, screams explanations, claiming her actions stem from perceived neglect. "I didn't think Victor loved me enough," she wails. "I wanted someone who wanted me instantly." Her confession, raw and unfiltered, only intensifies the chaos. The room pulses with anger, grief, and disbelief, a storm of emotions that no one can control. Furniture is overturned, voices rise to piercing crescendos, and the once safe home transforms into a battlefield of familial destruction as years of loyalty, trust, and love unravel in a single, explosive night. The twist detonates the final emotional bomb. Hidden away for 20 years, a DNA test, never disclosed, proves that Evan is in fact Victor's biological son. Margaret had kept the lie alive, consciously manipulating the family, punishing Victor for what she deemed predictability and emotional distance. The room erupts anew. Screams, tears, and incredulity collide as the weight of her deceit settles over everyone. Victor feels a complex mixture of relief, rage, and heartbreak. His son is truly his, yet the years of mistrust and lies have carved deep scars. Evan struggles to reconcile the truth, processing not just betrayal but relief and confusion. Lily continues to berate Margaret, demanding answers, while Margaret collapses, exhausted by the emotional carnage she has wrought. The night leaves nothing intact. Love, trust, and identity lie in shards, marking the absolute breaking point of family once thought perfect, now forever transformed by revelation and deception. Months after climactic revelations, Victor begins to reclaim his life. The trust that once held his marriage together has been irrevocably shattered, and he files for divorce, not out of spite, but as a necessary act of self-preservation. Lily, feeling the weight of betrayal and unable to forgive Margaret, cuts off all contact with her mother, creating a protective boundary around her own emotional well-being. Evan, still grappling with anger, grief, and confusion, slowly finds clarity. One evening, after months of silence and avoidance, he approaches Victor, voice trembling but resolute. "You are my real father. DNA didn't make us a family. You did." Those words, heavy with love and affirmation, provide Victor with profound validation. They remind him that his decades of sacrifice and devotion were never in vain, that family is not defined by biology but by love, loyalty, and presence. This emotional acknowledgement marks the first step toward healing. Victor takes decisive steps to create a new chapter. Selling the Montana home, filled with both cherished memories and painful betrayals, symbolizes his release of the past and its emotional weight. In a new town, he opens a modern auto shop, designed not just for business success, but as a fresh start, free from the shadows of deceit. Every bolt tightened and every car repaired mirrors a rebuilding of his own life, orderly, honest, and independent. The act of creating something tangible and self-sustaining becomes a metaphor for reclaiming his agency. Each day, he walks the line between remembering his past sacrifices and refusing to be defined by the betrayals. Through work, purpose, and renewed connection with Evan and Lily, Victor begins to experience empowerment, transforming pain into resilience, grief into focus, and betrayal into motivation for a life built on his terms. Margaret, realizing the consequences of her actions, attempts reconciliation. She sends letters, appears unannounced at Victor's new workplace, and sits in the parking lot crying, pleading for forgiveness. Yet Victor, strong and self-assured, refuses to let her guilt manipulate him. His response is firm, measured, and cutting. "You didn't destroy the marriage. You destroyed yourself." The statement carries both liberation and judgment, separating her actions from his continued life. It signifies the emotional empowerment he has cultivated, recognizing that betrayal does not define him, nor does it have power over his future. Victor's life now centers on authenticity, loyalty, and self-respect. The empowerment arc completes as he fully embraces agency over his life, choosing family connection, personal integrity, and purpose over bitterness. The story closes with hope, resilience, and the affirmation that true strength lies in reclaiming oneself after devastation. A year has passed since the storm of betrayal, confrontation, and upheaval. Victor sits alone at a small, sunlit cafe in a quiet town, the world moving gently around him. For the first time in decades, he feels an unusual calm. No tension, no anger, no lingering doubts. The aroma of fresh coffee and baked bread surrounds him, and the soft morning chatter of patrons provides a comforting backdrop. He stirs his coffee absent-mindedly, eyes tracing the sunlight spilling across the table. The solitude, once heavy with pain, now feels like liberation. Victor reflects on the past year, the divorce, the rebuilding of his shop, the deep conversations with Evan and Lily, and the small victories of emotional recovery. Each sip of coffee and quiet breath marks the slow, deliberate return of peace, grounding him in the present moment. The weight of betrayal has begun to lift, leaving space for healing and hope. The calm is interrupted, but pleasantly, when Evan arrives carrying his newborn daughter. Victor looks up, startled but delighted, as the familiar face of his son brings warmth and joy. The tiny infant is swaddled in soft blankets, her delicate features visible as Evan carefully cradles her. He gestures toward Victor, eyes shining with emotion, and asks him to hold the baby. Victor's hands tremble slightly as he lifts the fragile life into his arms, feeling the weight of both responsibility and hope. Each tiny breath and movement of the newborn fills him with awe. The years of hardship, pain, and sacrifice are momentarily eclipsed by this profound, tender moment. Evan's presence and trust reinforce the bond between father and son, and Victor realizes that life continues to offer moments of love and connection, even after devastation. The act of holding new life brings a tangible sense of purpose and renewal as Victor cradles the baby. Evan leans closer and whispers the name he has chosen. Hope. The word resonates with profound weight, a testament to resilience and love that survived betrayal, loss, and grief. Victor feels a lump in his throat. Tears threaten to fall as he smiles softly, the first genuine smile in years. The cafe's gentle hum, the morning light, and the quiet intimacy of the moment wrap around him like a protective embrace. This small, precious life symbolizes the possibility of love, continuity, and emotional restoration. Victor's gaze lingers on the baby, feeling both joy and the bittersweet ache of the journey that brought them here. The camera metaphorically fades out on his soft, contented smile, signaling the culmination of his empowerment arc. Healing is not complete, but the first true peace and hope have returned, offering a poignant, emotional close.